All right, Joel Gausten here from joelgausten.com. For this conversation, I have the privilege of chatting with somebody who's responsible for one of the most fun upcoming releases that have hit my desk in a long time. I'm really excited to chat with from Bon Jovi and Phil X and the Drills. Phil X, hey man,
What's
good to
up,
see you.
Joel? That was a nice intro. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, man. I'm loving his new record, which we should let the viewer know is called Pow Right in the Kisser. Love that. And it's by your longtime project, Phil X and the Drills.
Yeah,
Uh, and obviously, people watching this video would know you best, of course, as at this point, the longtime guitarist for Bon Jovi. Um,
yeah.
but this record, man, I'm a drummer, and for me, it's like the ultimate hard rock drummer album. Uh,
Right.
we got to hit the ground running there because the
Do
album
it.
11 tracks and 11 drummers. You have a
Yeah,
different drummer on every track, and we're not just talking, unknown guys here. You've got Chico, of course, is on a
yeah,
track. Tommy Lee, who absolutely smokes on his. Ray from Korn, Kenny Aronoff, Liberty DeVito. I mean, come on, come on.
yeah.
I mean,
It's pretty crazy.
it
I,
doesn't.
I feel blessed every day. I really do. And I've said this many times, like all these guys I've worked on other artists' projects with. I can't even, I've lost count on how many records Kenny Aronoff and I have done together. I've lost count. But there's so many things. And I mean, when you get into it, I love drums. I suck at drums, but I love drums. And there are drummers that I love. And if you're in the studio and you're rocking out, and it could be anybody, it could be Kelly Clarkson, it could be heavy rock, it could be anything. And you're gelling and making music, and there's a camaraderie, and and then before you know it, you're pals. So my whole thing is like, I feel like asking someone in that situation to play on my record is like saying, hey, what do you feel like for lunch?
Mm.
It's kind of because you're bonding, right? And you're bonding over music, which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So it's art, and it's what you do in that form and in your passion, and it's just all coming together. So I mean, the Tommy thing was incredible because I played on all his solo records, and when we would be jamming in the drum room, and I'd be playing guitar and he'd be playing drums, and a lot of people think of his drumming as meat and potatoes because of Motley Crue, but when I got to play with him next to him, it was like, wow, this guy's got so much groove and pocket, and every fill means something, and it's imagination, and like I have to get that on a record.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think with him in particular, you captured one of his best performances I've heard him lay down in years. And he's
Wow.
always great. I mean, you see
Yeah,
Crew
no,
live,
it's always great.
you
Yeah,
know, I mean, 40 plus years later, he's still at the very top of his playing,
yes,
and
for sure.
really impressive. Did you have the idea going into this record that you were going to use a different drummer for every song?
It started sort of multiple, but not for each song. It's like, okay, there's gonna be a few drummers because being having a band in LA is like, hey man, we're playing at the Whiskey next Friday. I can't make it because I have a gig already. And okay, go drummer number two. Hey, I got a gig at the Whiskey on Friday. Can you make it? Sorry, man, I'm already booked. It's like that. So, and then me calling my buddy Randy Cook. He was in the band for a minute, and he played on a track on the last record, "Stupid Good Looking" Volume One, and so I call him. I go, hey, I want to record the record, and this is 2014. I want to record the record in June. Oh, dude, I'm on tour until October, and I'm like, oh man. So lo and behold, I'm in the studio the next day, uh, and Josh Freese is on that session
Mm.
with Chris Chaney, who's now playing bass for AC/DC. And so we're playing on another artist's record, and at lunch, I'm kind of venting my uh, frustration about not my drummer not being around. And Josh just looked up and said, I'll play on a few songs. And Chris, who is super tight with Taylor Hawkins, who was like, dude, I'll talk to Taylor. He'll probably play on a couple of songs too. So Taylor also played on the song on Stupid Good Lookings. But after Josh sparked the idea of getting multiple drummers on this, we could never get the schedule together to get him on a song. So I was on the road, and when I was on the road, he was on the road, so we couldn't make it happen. But thanks, Josh. It was a good idea.
I lived in LA about 20 years ago and I got to know Taylor a little bit because um, there was a record store. I was in Tarzana, and there was a record store in Ventura,
Yeah.
CD Trader, which I think is still around.
Wow.
And I'd go in there, and every once in a while, Taylor would pop in and just chat music with whoever was there, and he'd play stuff that he was working on. And super into music, super energetic. What I loved about Taylor was in all the conversations I was a part of with him, he never once mentioned that he was in one of the biggest bands of the world. It like
Yeah.
never even came up, you know,
Yeah.
and I always respected that. And I miss him. He was a cool guy.
He
Absolutely.
was a cool. I mean, having him in the studio was really amazing because for one, all these songs, this record and the last record, I would just send a drummer a like a vocal and a guitar and leave the playing field of drums completely no ideas, a blank slate, come in with what you do kind of thing. So, and the thing that I sent Taylor was the same thing. And he just came in and like crushed it. And then we're in a band for like 90 minutes going, hey, let's do this before the solo. And he's like, yeah, but let's do this going into the third chorus. And I go, yeah, but go completely crazy at the end. And then bang, we lay down 3 takes and we're done. It's amazing.
Excellent. Now I know Brent Fitz, who's no slouch, who's an amazing player. He's kind of your regular guy in the drills,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Um,
he also plays in multiple bands. So when he's available, he's a drill.
right, right. I always loved that about LA because as you know, you see these sort of like when people aren't touring, they get together in these weird combinations and do like
Yeah.
cover gigs, like out in the valley somewhere. You'll walk into a small place and there's Karabi, there's Bruce Kulick, there's Eric Singer, whoever it may be, kind of floating around playing Grand Funk songs or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a beautiful thing. So, obviously I know you have another band, that small up and coming Bon Jovi group that I hope makes it someday. That said, what kind of touring or live performance schedule do you have in mind for the Drills now that there's a new record on the way?
I'm waiting for the schedule from the other band, and then I'll just fill in the gaps. Um, we do have some gigs coming up in March. We're playing 3 shows in Texas next weekend, but it's just I can't really book anything until I get the other schedule because
Mhm.
the last thing you want to do is cancel, right? That's happened before. I book something and then they're like, "Hey, we got to do this," and then I'm like, "Hey, we have to move these dates, but we sold tickets." I'm holding up the phone a lot in this conversation, but it's tough, I'm trying to juggle and be a dad too. That's why this record took 10 years. Like the first track was You Sunk My Battleship with Brian Tishy in 2014. And the last song we recorded was October 2024 with Tosh Peterson, the new kid on the block, who's like slaying the drum world at the moment. And I feel like in between was, Bon Jovi tours, Bon Jovi records. I became a dad for the second time with my daughter in 2016, and then you just want to be a dad. And then my writing took uh, a turn too, because drill stuff was usually about like uh, your partner that's a crazy person or ex-girlfriends or something like that. And then when I had a daughter, it was like, yeah, I don't think I want to just write about that anymore. And then what added dimension to this record was the song "Broken Arrow" that Liberty DeVito played on,
Mhm.
and I wrote that song right after I heard that Chris Cornell had passed, and in the history of the drills, there would have never been a song associated with suicide. ever, because that was just too much depth for the drills. But that song came out of me, and um, it was really. I mean, if you really, really look into the lyrics, it's very poetic, and you can maybe make out that it's about suicide, but it could be about anything that's a challenge. You
Mm.
know, when the voice of reason is telling you to not do something, and you're like shutting down the voice of reason and doing it, and then do you think that was a smart choice? That kind of thing, you know. So I mean, it was really, like I said, it added dimension to what the drills do. So I was really and picking the drummer for that was the same thing. I wanted to get. I had worked on the Hired Gun documentary with Liberty DeVito, and we jammed at East West Studios in Hollywood. And I'm like, oh my god, completely unexpected angst coming from that guy. Like
Mm.
he plays like a kid, and I was floored. And so when we had 2 days we were in New York. We had two sold out shows with at the Madison Square Garden actually, and with Bon Jovi in 2018. And I called Lib and I'm like, hey man, if I get a studio on Friday, will you play drums on a Jules tune? He goes, I would love to. And so I thought, legendary drummer, I should get a legendary studio. So we went to the Power Station, and it was amazing, man. He came in and knocked it out of the park, and I got home and I'm so happy with the tracks. I changed, I replayed all the guitars so I could match his vibe, and it's just it all came together really great. And you can hear the intensity in my voice when I'm singing about that topic, you know. So to me, that's what music's all about. It's all about the passion, and when you play with people that have the passion, and it's art, and everybody's just wanting to use their voice to get the message across.
Mm.
I mean, it happened so many times on this record. It was just, I'm very like almost mind blown sometimes. Like when I look at the list of drummers, and I'm very obviously grateful and feel blessed. So it's an amazing thing for sure.
Absolutely. As far as live performances go, I had Bumblefoot on a couple months back, and I hit this question over to him as well because he's no stranger to playing massive venues, right? With
Right.
guns, and you're obviously no stranger to that yourself. So, I've talked to guys, and I know guys who do the arena thing, and some of them love it. And some of them really prefer that down and dirty club vibe. If they had to
Right.
choose one extreme or the next, they'd go for the smaller venues. Where do you stand on that? What's your perspective?
You know, my perspective is simple. It's like I love both. It's like it's the idea of being an artist and having two canvases to paint on. You know, obviously, um, one is a supportive role, and one is me driving the van. You know, hitting you in the head. I'm the lyric and the narrative, and sing the way I want to sing and play the way I want to play. And I got two guys that are delivering the goods behind me, and Daniel Spree on bass, and Brent Fitz, like I said, when we can get him, and uh, and then when I'm with Bon Jovi, it's Wembley Stadium. It's
Right.
like, that's like 82,000 people with a local opener, and playing some of the most iconic rock songs of all time. It's like, I mean, and then this band's a van and this band's a jet. I mean, there's differences, of course. But if I have a guitar in my hands and a mic in my face, I'm the happiest guy. It could be 12 people or 120,000. I just want to play. Um, and what makes it really cool, uh, being able to do both, is just that. I like being the supportive role. I can have fun not singing and just singing backgrounds. But being the front guy is way more demanding. You know, your connection with the audience is more important. Your delivery is more important. Everything is more important. And you're like, if I'm singing backgrounds, I don't really have to warm up that much. But if I'm singing a drill show coming up, I got to scream drills for like 3 weeks in the car
Mm.
driving.
Right on.
That was a long answer. I apologize.
Oh no. Not at all. That's why I ask questions. I like to hear the answers.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. I obviously I knew we were going to be connecting, so I've listened to a lot of drills, and I've also listened to a lot of Bon Jovi. And I know you get this said a lot to you. You know, Bon Jovi got me into this whole thing. It was my first concert in '87. I would not
Wow.
be a musician unless I had seen Tico Torres on MTV when I was a kid. So all roads have led to this moment because it was Bon Jovi that got me going to begin with.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a band that's been around well over 40 years at this point
Yeah.
and has maintained its place in the industry for that long, right? I mean, there was never like the club era for Bon Jovi. It was always
Th-
big and has stayed that way. You've been in the band officially now for 9 years. I mean, careers often don't last 9 years in this
Right.
industry. So because you've been part of the machinery for so long now, what do you think it is? What's the formula within Bon Jovi that has enabled the band and, of course, John to have this career that, obviously is going to reach Stone's level? Uh,
Yeah. You know what? I feel like John's made a lot of excellent decisions, but I think the songwriting, I think it's the songs that kept him relevant through the whole thing, and I believe he approaches songs with the audience in mind. And okay, this is a thing. And even when we get on into rehearsal, sometimes there's a new song. He goes, okay, this one's going to be great live. We got to do this and this and this and this at the end, and then we'll get the audience going. And he thinks like that. And I don't know if a lot of people do. It's a really short list of people that can headline Wembley Stadium that were around in the 80s,
right.
right? Yeah. So he has a command of that power, and he's always had it. And he's an idea guy. He gets up early and he's got ideas and he's got to get through them. And the band, we all watch it happen. When we're on the road, he's got his regime, and he's got to do this, he's got to do this, he's got to do this. Showtime, and it's like wow, it's like he's got it down. But I do believe the work ethic is important. I do believe the super fan, he understands the super fan. And I didn't know what a super fan was until I started playing with Bon Jovi. And a super fan to me is people that go to multiple shows. And I don't mean three, I mean 20, 40. So we'll be out somewhere and someone will hold a sign that says, this is my 200th show. Yeah. So to me, that's not crazy. That is this person, specific person. There was a moment where Bon Jovi either changed their life or saved their life. And maybe it was a song, maybe it was a performance, and they just want to feel that feeling again and again and again. And to me, there's something to admire about that, if you can do it. But that's when I realized that, and you try to tell people that, and they're like, that's just crazy. Nobody goes to 40 shows. I mean, if I think about it myself as a fan, I don't think I'd go see Hendrix 40 times if he came back from the dead. But, uh, you know, if I could go back in time and my parents would have let me, like I saw Van Halen in 81, 82, 83, no, 81, 80, 81, 82, and 84 before Roth left in my young years. And if I thought, when I was 18, I thought, wait a minute, they're playing in Buffalo tomorrow. We gotta go. It never occurred to me. But to these people, it didn't occur to them not to go to multiple shows.
Right.
So that's what it is. And I think that's the same thing. Those people want to see Bon Jovi again. And that's why the band is still where the band's at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I said, I wouldn't do anything like this or play music or write about music or get into journalism to begin with without that first concert at the Meadowlands in '87. So I thank you for your part in keeping the band going.
You're welcome.
It's a part of a lot of lives, obviously, and I wish the band well moving forward. Of course, I wish you well with this new record. Again, it's called Pal Right and the Kisser. Comes out March 28th. I'm going to include all the links in the video description for people to check out this stuff.
Awesome.
And wish you well with everything moving forward, man. And we'll have
I'm
to
so
do.
glad you dig it. I'm so glad you dig the record. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's fun. It's a really for people who like traditional hard rock. I would check it out. I would check it out just for the drummers on the tracks because you're getting a master class in how it's done. And the songs hold up.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Thank
matter
you.
who the name on the marquee is. The songs are there, and that's what's most important. So I consider it a complete package. It's definitely one of the best records I've heard so far this year, and can't encourage people enough to go check it out and give it a listen.
I appreciate it so much, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show. And great chat, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.